Hi there, welcome to episode number 20 of the Practical EdTech Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to share a bunch of updates about our favorite Google products, share a cool update from Microsoft, answer a handful of questions from readers and viewers and listeners like you, and share a little surprise that my students gave me in my classroom today. So let's go ahead and jump right into the first part of this episode. So first of all, what's new from Google? Well, they released a whole bunch of new things this week, including Smart Compose mode for Google Documents, creating tours in the web version of Google Earth. You can now add feedback or contact forms to Google Sites without having to use a Google form. You can now reuse rubrics in Google Classroom, and you now have the option for adding different page numbers to different sections within Google Docs. So let's take a deeper look at some of these. The Smart Compose mode in Google Documents is a beta product. Your domain does need to sign up to test it out. And what it'll let you do is have your documents kind of auto-filled for you. Much like the Smart Compose mode in Gmail, Smart Compose mode in Google Docs will predict what you're trying to write in a sentence. You can hit the tab key and it will fill it in for you. So it could be a time saver or it could be an annoyance depending on your perspective. The new option in Google Earth, the web version of Google Earth, lets you create tours that include videos and pictures within a series of place marks in Google Earth and then play it back in a slideshow-like format. It's not quite as good as the tour creator option that's in the desktop version of Google Earth, but it's a great step forward. And here on my YouTube channel, I do have a tutorial on how to use this new option in Google Earth. By the way, if you're interested in more ideas on how to use Google Earth and Google Maps in your classroom besides just social studies, I do have a webinar all about how to do that. You can find that at practicaledtech.com on the On Demand tab. The new option in Google Sites will let you insert a feedback option in the footer of all the pages in your Google Sites. This is different than using just your Google form. This will actually let you have a small little pop-up contact button in the bottom of your site. The rubric option in Google Classroom is one that's been available as a beta product since August. Your domain does have to sign up for it, so not everyone has access to it yet. I made a video about it when I got access to it a few months ago and tried it out. One of my complaints about it, and one of the complaints that many people had, was that you had to make a new rubric for every single assignment that you gave. You couldn't reuse it from assignment to assignment. Fortunately, Google has heard that feedback and is now giving that option to people to reuse the rubric. And the other option that's new is the option to use different page numbers for different sections of your Google Doc. What that means for you is that instead of having to have all your pages sequentially listed, you could have section 1, pages 1 through 10, section 2, pages 1 through 10, and so on and so forth. Previously, if you had section 1 and section 2, it would be pages 1 through 10, then pages 11 through 20. Now you can break it up a little bit differently. Now, the update from Microsoft. Microsoft Forms is one of my favorite Microsoft products. It's a great rival to Google Docs, and now it supports file upload. So you can have a file question or a file type question in there where students have to submit a file as a response to the question. One of the things I really like about Microsoft Forms' new file upload option is you can specify a maximum file size, and you can also specify the type of file that you will accept. This is a little bit better than what Google does, where it doesn't let you specify the type of file that you'll accept. So You can specify both size and file type. Could also be great for collecting things like permission slips from parents. That's cool. My old friend, my old pal, Padlet. Padlet.com. I've been using it for over a decade. I started using it back when it was called WallWisher. Great tool. Still love it. This past week, they added the option to make maps or multimedia maps inside Padlet. You use a Google map as the background, basically, and you build your place markers or your notes directly on top of the map. Great little tool. I have a video about how to do that right there on my YouTube channel. Should be one of the first things listed on my YouTube channel right now. Or just do a search for Padlet, and you'll find all of my Padlet tutorials right there. NASA has a new game called Rocket Science Ride to Station. Thanks to Larry Ferlazzo for the tip about this. It's a game in which students have to control a mission to the space station. Kind of a cool little game. There's a new Chrome extension I tested out this week, and I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, I don't think. It's called Huizo. H-E-W-I-Z-O. Huizo. It reads aloud news articles to students or anyone else who wants to use it. Supports 30 languages. Nice little Chrome app. It'll strip out the ads. It'll only read the article. It doesn't read any of the sidebar content. On a related note, a tool that I used to recommend and used for a long time called Announceify, which did a similar thing, seems to have stopped working. I went to use it this past week and just flat out wouldn't work. It's still listed in the Chrome extension store or the Chrome web app store, but it doesn't seem to be working at all, and it hasn't been updated in a couple of years. So I think Announceify is dead. Sorry. A couple other neat new things I want to point out. DocsTeach, docsteach.org. Great website for history teachers. Has a new section, a new selection of comic books. So historical comics, if you will. Check that out. Great little tool. And one last little thing I want to point, one new thing, although I guess it's technically not new. It's been out since 2018. New to me. I actually learned about it while reading Flyer Talk, of all places. It's called Pi-hole Project. It's a Raspberry Pi project. And what it does is essentially creates an ad blocker on your network. So as opposed to being an ad blocker that you install on your Chrome browser or your Firefox browser, it will actually block ads on your home network for you. Now, the setup of it is not something you're going to do quickly, but it's kind of a cool project. So if you're looking for something to do with your Raspberry Pi, check it out. It's the Pi-hole Project, Pi-hole Project. And, you know, it does require a little bit of knowledge about Raspberry Pi. It requires a little bit of knowledge about DHCP configuration. But if you're looking for a little project to do at home, you want to block ads on your home network, try it out. So, kind of a cool little thing. I thought I'd just share it out. All right. Now, some thoughts from my classroom, thoughts from the field, if you will. I was out of the classroom for most of the week this week. I had a great sub, very capable sub. His name is Ryan. He's actually a graduate of the program that I'm teaching right now. He graduated 7 or 8 years ago. Great student, was a great student. Is a great person, great guy, an active developer as his full-time job. But he came in to sub for me for the week, or most of the week, and he did a great job with all of my students. Improvised when the plan went a little bit awry. My students were doing some work with Arduino. One of my groups are doing some Arduino projects, and not all the parts that they needed were available, so he helped them improvise. Great. And many of my students did fantastic. In fact, my freshmen did even better than I expected. I came back today, and my freshmen just for the most part, knocked it out of the park on their app development project, so I was really psyched about that. And of course, I still had a couple of kids who chose not to really work on the projects, which was frustrating to say the least, but overall, really, really great. And I think the difference, the last time I was out of the classroom, it was an unexpected absence. This time was planned. The last time was unexpected. I had to call in sick, take care of take care of my kids. But anyway, and now last time it didn't go so well when I was out. This time it seemed to have gone much, much better. And I think the big difference was I kind of forewarned the kids that I was going to be out. All right. Now let's jump into what everybody comes here for, I think. And that is questions from readers, listeners, and viewers like you. First question I have came from Chris, who wrote, "Hello, Richard. What is the best way to take attendance for clubs or groups that will not be bringing a device with them to the activity? It may be a group working on STEAM activities and you want to keep a record of the number of times they come to the meetings. It would be something that they could use an iPad or computer to sign in when they came to the activity. What app or website would help best with this? It would be for My Records, not for Office." Chris. So what I recommend to Chris is to use a Microsoft form, a Google form, or even a Jot form, jotform.com. Any of those three, and create a long just a one question long checklist, and pick them off that way. The nice thing is all of those will save to a CSV file or Excel or Google Sheet, depending on which one you use. Makes it quick and easy way to sign in. The other thing you might want to try, and I have a colleague who did this years ago, using Plickr cards. So plickers.com. If you're not familiar with Plickers, they're these basically fancy QR codes. Mine are laminated. You can use them laminated or not. And each one is assigned to, you assign each one to a student, and then you just scan the cards with your phone or tablet. And you could just set your tablet or your phone up in a little holder and have kids just swipe their card past the phone or tablet, which is essentially acting as a scanner. So you could try that. That could work as well. All right. Next question came from Melissa, who wrote, "I attended one of your conferences at Sunday River a few years back. I had this dilemma. I have a data table in Excel." By the way, this is a long question, so bear with us. "I have a data table in Excel. It is a list of New Hampshire cities and towns, approximately 230, and in a second column, we have indicated we have completed standardizing the location data, so that metric is just a yes or no. What I want to do is use a map of New Hampshire that shows all the cities and towns and have them labeled correctly with the city or town name. Merge it with my Excel spreadsheet, so the result would be the city or town would be colored in when the data table shows that the standardizing of the data for this is complete. It would be blank white if the data wasn't processed yet. Then at a glance, we could see which municipalities we need to still process." So, and she goes on to say, "I tried using GeoChart and Google Sheets, but I can't take this down to the city level. I also have only older versions of Excel. These versions do not offer Power Map. Is there something else I am missing?" So what I wrote to Melissa is that unfortunately, the way that Google Sheets and or Excel are going to display this data through the tools that you mentioned is as place markers, and they're not really going to do coloring in of the labels. And what it sounds like is you want to color in the outline or color in the space that each city or town occupies. And that's really kind of beyond the capabilities of most of the tools that are based on Google Sheets or Excel, which are really just going to put on place markers. So what I recommended trying was some of the tools from ArcGIS. Esri, you find it ESRI, Esri, and their ArcGIS program. They do have a student version that you can test out. I think it's a 14-day trial or something. I think it's a 14-day trial. You test out Esri, use some of their online mapping tools. They have the capability to do what you're describing. Really is a full-fledged GIS application. All right. Another question here came from Rebecca, who wrote, I'm a longtime follower of your blog, Free Tech for Teachers. Your tips and tricks have enhanced my teaching and practice immensely. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for that nice note. I was hoping you could help out the bit of a dilemma we're having with Google Docs. Currently, we are not a school that uses Google Classroom. This issue would be easy to resolve if we did. And here's the issue. My colleague wants to add comments using the commenting box to a Google Doc that contains links to articles. He would like students to share their thoughts with the entire class by commenting. However, with comments enabled, they are also able to add suggested edits. This is causing havoc on the doc as students are adding spaces, line edits, striking out sentences, etc. as they attempt to add comments. I've searched through the Google forums and can find many suggestions for how to turn on suggested edits, but none for how to turn them off. We may have to provide a different way for students to share their thinking. Thank you very much for your time, Rebecca. So my suggestion to Rebecca is exactly what I did with my own history students in the years before Google Classroom existed. Now, I've been using Google Docs with students for 12 years now. Wow. What I did before the days of Google Classroom with scenarios like this is I would share one copy of the document as view only, and then also share a copy with the commenting enabled. Then I'd have students open both versions in their browser. So they'd have two tabs open, one with the view only option and one with the commenting option. And that way they can read through the view only one and then comment on the one that has commenting enabled. It's not a perfect solution, but it's better than students getting frustrated by people moving things around in the document or inserting spaces where there shouldn't be spaces. So it makes it easier to read because you get that copy that's view only, then you get the copy where you're putting in comments. So you could use that. Or if you're really just want students to comment on links and comment on articles themselves, you might try Google Keep and have them share share the bookmarks there and then write comments on that, or add little notes to those. You might also use a tool like Diigo, kind of a classic EdTech tool now, Diigo, D-I-I-G-O, Diigo.com, where you have students all in one group and then they can write comments on the links that have been shared in there as well. So you try that. Next question came from Anissa, and this one got a little bit of a visual component to it. The question is, how can I manage to create an activity like this? I mean, which software or applications can I use to insert audio files in such a way? The exercises are found here. And the exercises that she's referring to are kind of a grid of audio files. So it's a grid of audio files for an ELT lesson or an ELL lesson, and they're all in they're in the grid. So they're in that grid, and my suggestion was to use either PowerPoint, Keynote, or now you can do it in Google Slides, because Google Slides now supports audio for most people. Create that grid and insert the audio files into each individual link. And in this case here, she also has a PDF that gets downloaded as well. So you can do that sort of activity. And if you wanted to collect audio from students, well, then you could collect audio using, again, Microsoft Forms or Google Forms or Jot Forms, any of those three, where you can then have students turn in an audio file that they've created. There's that. All right. Next question came from Susan. And Susan asked, hold on, there it is. Susan asked, I've been tasked with creating a STEM lab in our library. I've heard you talking about your students doing some Arduino projects. In fact, I talked about them earlier in this podcast. In looking through the Project Hub, I'm a bit overwhelmed by the options. Can you make some suggestions on what I should look for? Thanks for any guidance you can give me, Susan. By Project Hub, I assumed that Susan was referring to the Arduino Project Hub, which you'll find at create.arduino.cc/project hub. Anyway, in there, yes, it could be a little bit overwhelming. If you have not done any Arduino stuff in the past, you may find that the Arduino stuff, the Arduino Project Hub is overwhelming because you're not sure exactly what to look for. So my suggestion for Susan, and for anyone else who's getting started with Arduino, is to take a look at some of the products that are basically little kits. Things like Elegoo, ELEGOO.com, Elegoo.com. Those are the ones that I primarily use. I've also used the SparkFun ones, but the Elegoo ones are a little bit more affordable. And those kits will give you, 4 or 5 things that you can do with Arduino. Start with that. Start with those 4 or 5 like kind of concrete things where you're going to have all the parts provided by the kit. The kit will, walk you through, will give you all the things you need. Depending on the kit, you may even find a CD-ROM, or if you don't find a CD-ROM, who has a CD anymore? You'll find a corresponding website where there's clear guidance on it. That's a good place to start. Get those 4 or 5 kind of canned projects under your belt, and then move on to, okay, now that I understand the basics of this, I've got 4 or 5 projects under my belt. Now we'll start looking at, okay, I'm going to mix and match parts from different kits, or I'm going to look at the Project Hub and know, okay, yeah, I can do that. I can handle this. So that's where I would start with that. Just get one of the kits. They're not terribly expensive. I've got one right on my desk over here. I have the Elegoo Super Starter Kit, which I paid about $35 for. I have it right over there on my bookshelf, I should say, not my desk. That's a good one to start with. We have the Mega one in my class. We have the Mega ones in my classroom, Mega, and then we have a couple of Supers. We have SparkFun ones, but don't spend a ton. Get one of the kits. Spend $35. Get one of the kits. You'll get 4 or 5 projects out of it. Give it a shot, and then once you've got that under your belt, you move on. Then the Project Hub itself might make a little bit more sense. All right. And our last question came from Larry, who just emailed me this afternoon. Richard, I hope that this email finds you well. I'm doing well. Thanks, Larry. I am looking to get some direction on an activity I'm planning to do with my 5th graders. I have taught them to build PowerPoints, but I'm looking for other multimedia tools to teach. I'm going to use Prezi and Adobe Spark. Do you have any others you would recommend? I'm not exactly sure what your project is, Larry, but I will say this. I love Google Earth. I think that Google Earth is often looked at as just being a tool for social studies, and it really isn't. I mean, it is, but it isn't. You can use it for all kinds of things. You can use it for language arts lessons where your students map out stories. You can use it for language arts lessons where they map out the biographies of authors. You can use it in math classes. Tom Barrett's Maps is a great website for that. You can use it in science lessons for having students identify various features of the Earth. If you have the full-fledged Google Earth, the Google Earth Pro, which is free, but it runs on your desktop, there's all kinds of science layers and views you can use. You can do tons of storytelling with Google Earth. And with Google Earth, both the desktop version and the web browser version, you could insert some videos that your students have made. So if you're already using Adobe Spark and your kids are making videos, upload those videos to Google Drive, and then boom, you can insert them into the place marks in Google Earth. Or upload them to YouTube and then insert them into Google Earth. So I would say get familiar with Google Earth. That's my next step for you, Larry. That's what I would do. Yeah. And yes, 5th graders can totally do that. All right. So now for the shameless commerce division of my life. Thanksgiving is right around the corner here in the U.S. So we've 6 days away till Thanksgiving. And like everybody who sells anything, I'm going to have a Thanksgiving Black Friday / Cyber Monday sale at practicaledtech.com/online on-demand PD. So just go to practicaledtech.com, click on the on-demand PD. I'm going to have 8 webinars available in one big bundle at more than 50% off. So check that out. You'll also be able to purchase individual copies of webinars at 40% off. So if you want to get all of them in one fell swoop, one big bundle, more than 50% off. If you want to get just one of them, knock off 40% for you. So check that out. That will be live on a Monday. That'll be live on Monday and run through the following Monday. So check that out. That's the shameless commerce division of my life. Thank you for that little plagiarized line I just used from cartalk.com. Click and clack, the Tapper Brothers. And on that note, if you have any questions for me about anything that I do, or you have feedback for me, or you're looking for an online friend, I don't know, send me an email. My email address is richard@burn.media. I love getting questions from readers, and I do try to respond to every single one of them as quickly as I can. Bear in mind, I'm teaching full time, so may not be super speedy all the time, but I do try to respond to every single one of the emails that I get. And it's just me. I'm a one-man show. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, tell a friend. Bye-bye.